Hey, Amy,
Yeah, Juan.
give me the beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amy Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
And this time I successfully did not mute myself, everybody. That's a win. She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Welcome to Baseball Shangri-La. We got another episode here, and we got a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it. We're going to start the show the way we start every show. We're going to start with our favorite segment, base running blunders. I don't think I had one. Amy, do we have any base running blunders?
I don't think so. Looking over my notes, unless anybody let you know of anything, right now we are in the clear.
Yeah,
So no
yeah.
errors.
Nobody told me anything, so I think we're good so far. So wow, I mean, it's looking good. We might have a chance for a win here. Amy, how are you?
I'm good. I've missed being on here and talking with you and chatting with all of our friends out in the ether.
Yeah, and it seems that some of our listeners and our viewers we're also missing us. Look, guys, things have been a little crazy here, so I know we haven't been delivering as much content as we have, but yeah, the content is coming, so don't worry about it. You're going to be able to get your fix about Baseball Shangri-La. Amy,
And
let's
based
start.
on some of that feedback, actually, I think we're covering some topics that will interest some of our listeners. So I think we've got the best of both worlds. Everybody will be happy.
That's right. Amy told me that some of our viewers or listeners were hitting her up. Hey, I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. Look, we love that, guys. We want more of that. If there are certain topics that you guys want us to cover, please let us know and we will talk about it whenever we get the message on the next episode. But what's the big news of the week? What's the big story since we last heard you? Since we were last together here, Amy, what's the big news?
I think players may have reported. I think they're playing on fields in a place in Arizona, something like that.
And they
Possibly.
actually had a workout, Amy. Not only did they
Full
report,
squad.
they had a full squad workout, ladies and gentlemen. I know we had some confusion on, wait, they report on this date, but the workout is on another date. Like, the important thing is everyone's there. Like, I saw Oscar Hernandez there and Manuel Margot. I actually saw Manuel Margot in a Dodgers uniform. So he is not in the witness protection program. Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe everyone has reported, correct? There isn't anybody. I thought earlier I had
No,
seen that maybe.
there was one invitee. I don't know if he's gotten there since. There was a visa holdup. I cannot
That's
remember
what
his
I
name
was
off the
thinking.
top of my tongue. Tip of my tongue.
That's what.
Starting with the base running blunders already.
No, don't worry about it. I'll vamp if you can find it. But I thought I recalled seeing somebody had visa problems. But like you, I couldn't remember what was the name. But other than that, yeah, everybody. But it cracks me up though because players reported on the 13th and they had their first workout on the 14th. But yet, it seemed like everybody else was already there in camp before the actual report day. Do you have
We
the
were talking.
information?
I don't off the top of my
All
head.
right,
I
let's forget
can't.
about it. We'll come back to you guys if we find it. But the important thing is the majority of them are there.
Yes, that is correct. And like we were talking about, I think on the last episode, obviously Jay Hay is there and has been answering a lot of media questions. There's actually been some changes on the field. We saw all over Twitter that Miguel Vargas he's being prepped to play in left field. So Andre Ethier was out there working with him this week. So
Amy, you got to tell me how do you feel about this? I feel so bad for this guy because this guy in the minor league started playing third base. Then last year we saw him playing second base. Now, when he was down in the minor leagues before they called him up the year before, when he got called up in September, they had him out in the outfield. Now, I know the Dodgers love having these guys who can play multiple positions, but I don't know. Yeah, I want to hear your opinion on this. He doesn't look like an outfielder to me. He looks like a kid who they believe can hit, but he doesn't have a position. Am I wrong there?
I don't think you're wrong, but I think at that point, if you've got an invite to potentially play in the show, it's not like you're gonna be like, "I'm a third baseman," or, you're gonna go do whatever they want. But yeah, I mean, definitely have some concerns. We've seen this in years past, though, even during the season. Remember when they moved Jock Peterson from center field to first base? He had to borrow
Exactly.
somebody's glove just to play.
Exactly. That's what concerns me is I just feel like he doesn't. I don't even remember now what his natural position was. I don't know if third base was his natural position, but the fact that he's constantly moving around, I feel like it puts him in a tough position. Like it puts him behind the eight ball. I mean, it's already hard enough. He struggled last year when he had the opportunity to play second base. And now he's going to be out there. Like, I think it's really hard to learn a new position on the fly. And that's what's going to happen with this kid is I know he has spent time in left field, but realistically, how much time is he going to have in spring training to really get comfortable in left field? When you said it, there's a good chance he's not going to make the team.
I mean, that's the concern, right? But even if that's the case, if there's a small glimmer of hope that if I shift over to left field and somehow can make that work, then I get to be on the team because we know the outfield still needs a little zhuzhing, if you will. So if he can fill that spot, I mean, he's still young enough where it's not like he's been entrenched in other positions for like 5 or 6 years in the majors. Maybe he can still make that shift. Maybe he's still pliable. I hope for his sake it works, because we definitely need the help in left field, but I guess we'll see.
Shushing are you showing off your Yiddish?
Uh,
Is that what it is? Are you bragging that you can
I'm
speak more than one language?
I'm just a word nerd. I love words.
A
So,
word nerd. Nerd
I
alert, everybody.
I
Nerd
was
alert.
setting you up there. Speaking of other players kind of moving around, sounds like Evan Phillips also, they're not giving him the official nod as closer, but Doc is open to that too. So did you hear about any of that today?
I did hear that, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think they're going to end up using him the same way they used him last year. It's going to be like I don't want to say that it's going to be closer by committee, but I think what it's going to. If we saw him come in the eighth inning last year, I think they're going to do the same thing. I found it very interesting because look, for all we know, all this talk about the Dodgers were going to sign Hader or the rumors about trading for Kenley that the Dodgers really wanted a closer. And look, they've broken camp, and it doesn't mean that they won't. They still won't get a closer by the end of spring training because a couple of years ago, remember they traded AJ Pollock for Craig Kimbrell in spring training, and they got their closer there. Now, of course, once Corbin Burns got traded by the Brewers to the Orioles, everybody in the Dodgers is like, "Go get Devin Williams." Look, we don't even know if Devin Williams is available. But that's the thing that cracks me up, right? You see this immediately. It's like they're supermarket shopping, right? And the Dodgers can get whatever they want. Look, it takes two to tango. Okay. You need a team that is willing to trade. Look, I would love Devin Williams. I would love to have Devin Williams on the Dodgers. What's it going to take to get Devin Williams? And look,
A,
if
a
any,
left fielding Miguel Vargas potentially.
well, and that's why but it's the sad thing. That's why I'm rooting for him to have a big spring because then he will turn into a trade chip. Amy, let me ask you this. If he gets sent down to the minors to start the season, which there's a very strong likelihood that that's going to happen, does that lower his value?
I mean, I th- normally I would say potentially yes, but I think because this roster is already so stacked, I don't know that that necessarily counts against him because where does he really fit? So in other years where maybe we've been a little leaner, it might be like, oh, well, why are they sending him down? Now it's like, well, I mean, where does he go? So in this case, maybe it won't count so much against him. I mean, I hope it doesn't.
And I don't want to come off as like I'm picking on Miguel Vargas because I think the Dodgers are probably still trying to trade Manuel Margot. I think that's the reason why he's been in the witness protection program all this time. Why are you laughing at me? Why are you looking at me like that?
'Cause I still want Kike back. I think he's
Oh, here we go.
I think he's a great utility player. He plays infield, he plays outfield. He'll be well versed in being able to spell Muncie at third, and we know that he produces in the postseason. So
I,
I'm still
I,
pro
I'm
Kike.
I mean, look, players have reported it's still very early. They haven't started playing games. Are you surprised that Geeka has? I mean, there's a lot bigger free agent names that still haven't signed. But does it surprise you that Geeka still hasn't signed with the team?
I mean, no, not with the way that this free agency has gone. Especially because some of those bigger chips did take longer to fall than we thought they would. And we also don't know what he's asking for. Like, is he willing to platoon? Is he willing to do like more coming off the bench, like later in the game, or is he looking to be an everyday player? And is that me? Again, we don't know what he's looking for. So those could be things that might be either counting against him or going for him. But obviously, nobody's signed him yet. So I'm still hopeful we could potentially get him.
Yeah, I mean, there's still moves that could be made here in spring training. So I think that's interesting. Amy, I don't know if you've seen, there's been a lot of pieces being written on Mookie. I know the LA Times did one, and I know the Athletic did one. Look, I know Mookie seems to be like so controversial to Dodger fans because Dodger fans, like, I feel, and I get it, he's a superstar. So there is a different level of expectation on Mookie.
Getting
But
ready to roll my sleeves up so we can fight. Bring it
okay,
on.
like,
Keep going.
you heard the sound bites, right? Like, I feel Mookie said all the right things. Like, he was accountable. Like, Mookie came out there and said, "Yeah, I had a horrible postseason. Yes, I can't have that happen. I can't disappear. I need to deliver on the postseason." For me, he's taking accountability. Like, isn't that a good thing? I mean, look, nobody denies that he's a great player, and even a great player. Like, I remind people, Exhibit A, Barry Bonds struggled in the postseason. It wasn't until he got into the World Series against the Angels when he was on the Giants that was like the first successful postseason he had. But when he was on the Pirates, he was struggling. Now, Mookie has had success in the postseason. Like, you guys remember when he won the World Series for the Dodgers in 2020? I mean, he had a pretty good postseason, but yeah, he's had a last couple of rough postseasons, and I
So
feel like the
I've
Dodgers.
got 2 points on that, and
All
one's
right,
gonna
go.
sound like a negative against Freddie, and it's not. This is just a hypothetical. But like for all the flack that Mookie's getting, why is nobody saying the same thing to Freddie? Mookie was second in the MVP last year in voting, and Freddie was third. My point, my the warning before that is basically just like nobody should be saying anything to either of them. They worked their butts off. They did their best. Baseball is baseball. This is why you cannot go out and buy a championship. You can go stack your team and hope it works out. But why is Freddie not getting flack? I don't hear him getting nearly as many questions as Mookie is getting, and they both went hitless in the postseason. Now, again, I don't think either of the year is over. Nobody should still be asking them those questions. If anybody thinks that they both just quit and were sitting on that bench in the postseason, like, okay, then you go suit up and you go play. Because those guys have the biggest hearts and they had great seasons. They just had lackluster postseasons. They're probably tired. It's a lot of games. Does it suck? Do we want to win? Yes, but I don't understand why we're continuing to harp on these guys when we know how hard they work. Like it doesn't connect for me. I mean, do you see the same thing? Do you see it a little differently?
I do. It does seem, because I know that Freddie gets asked the same question, but it does seem like I don't know if there is more venom directed towards Mookie, or it does seem
Is
to
it
be.
because he bowls? I'm just kidding. Let the man
I,
bowl.
I, I was waiting for you to be like, leave Mookie alone.
But really, leave him alone. Let him bowl. Let him play.
But no, I agree. It does feel like Freeman doesn't get asked the question as much, maybe because he was the only one that did get a hit between the two of them in the postseason. But I have to. You brought something up there. So do you think it is an unfair question for them to ask him, because with Mookie now, it's been 2 postseasons in a row, because the postseason before that against the Show Pods, it wasn't anything to brag about. That postseason was better than last year's postseason.
It's an unfair question to ask, but we asked it last year. We beat that dead horse. Like, why are we continuing to ask it? We're in a fresh new year. Let's go forward and see what happens, because again, those guys didn't have bad seasons for the regular season. They just didn't perform well in the postseason. But we also know there's other factors in that too. There's the break between, the regular season and when they actually started. We don't know what actually factors into that. But we already asked the question. Why are we're in a new season. Why are we continuing to ask? I guess my question would be, what do people really want him to say? He has literally said everything he could on the topic.
Yeah, that's why it's a little bit. Again, I get it, because he is the star of the team, and I wonder if it's going to change this year by having Ohtani on the team. My follow-up question to you, I think I'm going to save it for when we talk about Ohtani and the media there. But like that question that you have, like, why are we still talking about this? Because you're right. The time to ask that question was after the postseason, right? This is a new season. There's nothing he can do about it. He can't go back there because, yeah, if he goes and has a great regular season, just like he did last year, then the problem is they're going to ask him the same question once the postseason starts in 2024. How are you going to
you can ask the question, but I guess another question is there doubt in people's mind that he's not giving it his all? Like, do people truly think he's just, him or Freddie are just deciding not to show up?
See, I think that's interesting what you say there, because it almost seems like what they're doing is they're questioning the effort. And I don't think you could ever question the effort on any of these guys. The problem is how do we equate questioning effort with not getting results? And I don't think that correlates. Like, people automatically assume that if you're not getting results, it's because you're not trying. Look, you could be out there busting your ass and it is frustrating and you're not getting, it's like nobody goes out there to be like, you know what, man, I hope I go 0 for 4 today. I hope I go 0 for 5 and get the golden sombrero. Nobody's doing that, right?
Baseball is a game of failure. There are other players who have ups and downs during the season, and we don't harp on them as much as we harp on Mookie Betts. Like, you are not going to have a perfect season. Otherwise, we'd see more players with like 400 batting averages that never dip ever. Like, he's still out there doing stuff. Like, he was walking, at least in some cases, I think. So like, he's doing his best, but at the same time, like, nobody in their life, in your work life, like, you show up and you have a bad day at work, like, you're going to put in whatever effort you can, but maybe your best that day is a 7 out of 10. And, normally you're operating at 10 out of 10. You're still doing your best. It just happens.
No, I mean, I want to give Mookie his flowers, because I do think he takes a lot of crap, and he's owned up to it. Every time I've seen him get asked the question, he has answered it. He has taken accountability of it. It's not like he pulls a Ryan Leaf and goes, I told you I don't want to talk about it. Like, he goes out there and look, it's like we all saw it. He had a horrible postseason, and he's coming out there and he's telling you guys, I agree. I had a horrible and I'm going to do everything possible to avoid that this year. The whole goal is the same. Right. So
not celebrate the wins too. Like, if we're gonna be that down on him, why are we not giving him his flowers at the same, like, I don't even want to say at the same time, because that just negates it. But like, he had a great season. Like, we're picking that one tiny thing and we're just continuing to pick that scab. And it's like, you just negated the rest of his health of the season. And you're like, well, no, that one thing that defines you. And I don't think that's fair.
See, I attribute this to the whole the Jordanization of sports, where all of a sudden the only thing that matters is championships, right? Because you're right. Like, we keep forgetting, like, Mookie played multiple positions last year. Not only was Mookie playing right field, he was playing second base. He played shortstop last year for the
well.
Dodgers.
He had so many shots on like the post game on Spectrum and Sportsnet of just like, did you see that play? He wasn't a slouch at those positions. He excelled. Like, why are we not celebrating those things? I don't understand.
Because I mean, what happens then? Why do we even play the regular season? If the regular season doesn't matter, and all that matters is you have to win a World Series, and I know there's a lot of people that have this mentality. Look, I've seen over the top the Sylvester Stallone Classic where Bull Hurley says second sucks. I get that, but this whole mentality where we throw out the baby with the bathwater, where he's just defined by he had a bad 2-week stretch,
So
right? Or
did the
even
rest of the team. I mean,
exactly.
he didn't lose those 3 games himself.
Yeah. So
But then they're all owning it. Like they're all getting asked the questions about they're still all getting asked about last season's postseason failure, bringing up, 2022's. We get it. We lost. It sucks. I'm not here to justify like, oh, let's just not talk about it at all. But at what point do we just move on and focus on the new season?
you're right. The other players are addressing it, like Max Muncy. This was a direct quote from Max Muncy. There's no way around it. We sucked. We really kind of blew it, right? Miguel Rojas also came out and acknowledged it. That look, it was disappointing, and it's not just about last year, right? This is a team that won the World Series in 2021, and somehow they are
2020.
responding because. Oh yeah, 2020. Thank you. Uh-oh. That
Got it.
doesn't
I caught it.
exactly. I got picked off. That doesn't count as a base running blender. I just got picked off. Right. So but the thing is say they won in 2020. So in 2021, 2022, 2023, because they didn't win, all of a sudden there is this narrative that this team are the biggest disappointments. And I know that you're taking into account what happened before 2020, but a lot of this, it cracks me up because this narrative has been established. But a lot of these players that are talking, with maybe with the exception of Muncy, but Miguel Rojas wasn't there for all of this. So Miguel Rojas has to sit there and answer the questions as to why this team that I wasn't even on a couple of years ago didn't win the World Series. Like,
Still
again,
made it to the postseason for the X amount of time, depending on when they're asking about what year, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th year in a row. I think this is where we get really spoiled. And this is where I think my view, at least in my opinion, is a little bit different. Where, you know what? It sucks not winning. But if again, if you could buy a team and just win, you'd have so many teams doing back-to-back wins. That's why a different team has won every year, because injuries happen. Stuff happens throughout the season. Stuff you don't want to that has nothing to do with baseball happens and you lose pitchers. That's also why we like the game, but then we hold the game accountable to that. And I think that that's not fair. I think we should just be like, I'm truly happy we made it to the postseason. I would like to go further, but we still made it to the postseason. There are other teams that haven't even seen that in how many years?
well, look, I talk with my compadres out in Chicago all the time who they're big White Sox fans, right? And
Oh,
look, these guys, they finally saw their team win the World Series, and it had been like they had lived their whole life never seeing this, right? So when I come and I bitch to them every year that the Dodgers blew it, they shit the bed again and all that stuff, before the White Sox won, they would always say to me, he's like, dude, at least you saw your team win a World Series, right? So then once they ended up, White Sox won the World Series, they were able to see that. But this question always comes up in our group. And it's like, would you rather be in the playoffs every year and have a shot or win the World Series and suck for the next 20 years?
former, 100%. I want to be on a winning team that I can celebrate all the way through, and I think that's something we see through the season too. We're so spoiled with anywhere from 95 to 111 wins that, when we start to have those slumps, maybe midsummer or sometimes it happens in the spring, where it's like everybody goes into this tailspin of, "Oh my god, we're losing, like what are we going to do?" And it's just like, "No, no, this is baseball. This is what most fan bases go through. We're just very spoiled in that we win a vast majority of our games." And I think that's something where sometimes that spoiling can kind of maybe ruin the game for us because we don't really know what those ups and downs are like, except for that, like, 1 or 2 weeks out of the year where all of a sudden we're on a losing streak, but then we somehow managed to pull it out. And again, 11 years in a row, we've made it to the postseason. That's no small feat.
I always used to answer that. No, I want to win the World Series. But then I sit there and I go, man, it's because it's been such a long time where the Dodgers have really sucked, where they like, we can't. I mean, over a decade of not knowing what it feels like to not be in the playoffs, right? But there is something about how your team wins all the time. And regardless, like in 2020, when they won the World Series, I was still hating life at that same time because of all the stress in those games. I mean, if you guys forget, the Dodgers were down 3-1 to the Bravos in the NLCS that year. Everybody was already burying them, going, here we go again. They're doing it again. They're choking and all that stuff. Look, I'll be honest. I know there's going to be a bunch of people that were like, I never had a doubt. I knew they were going to come back. I thought they were done. And it was so amazing to see them come back, not only win that series, and then they go on and they win the World Series. And it was exciting times. I think, yeah. Then there's other times where they get swept, or the gentleman sweep against the show pods, and that sucks. But I was still able to watch baseball a little bit longer. And I've never had that, oh shit, we've already been eliminated and it's September. All of this is meaningless baseball. So I guess what I'm trying to say to our viewers and our listeners is it's just like, I know it's very easy because we're a passionate fan base. And of course, we want them to win all the time. But try to act like Amy always tells me this and he's like, do you even like baseball, bro? And it's like, I have to remind myself, like, I do enjoy watching baseball. So every once in a while, I think it's important to, yeah, maybe if we don't win, but to not lose sight of the fact of the accomplishments and how great, like, I get to watch Mookie Betts play baseball every day. You know, I get to see Freddie Freeman watch baseball every day. Like when Freddie Freeman was on the Bravos, when Mookie was on the Red Sox, and I would see him occasionally play, I'd always say, damn, man, that guy's so good. And you just be like, you're just like, oh, I wish he was on our team. And then he was finally on our team. And like both of those guys had great seasons last year. And we crap on them because we didn't win the World Series. And I mean, you said it, Amy. I mean, it hasn't been since the late 90s that we've had a repeat winner in Major League Baseball.
But isn't that why we watch though? Like that's what got me back into baseball in like 2012, 2013 was, I was having stuff going on in my life, but baseball was there every day. I loved being able, no matter what was happening, I could turn on a game. My guys were there playing their hearts out, win or lose, they're on that field, they're showing up. That to me, like that is one of the things I love about baseball. It's a metaphor for life. There's always a new game. Like we're supposed to have a short memory when it comes to this stuff. And the way we're treating these guys, we're not. We're like, okay, yeah, there's a new game every day, but hey, let me rub this in your face for a couple more weeks. Like it just this is supposed to be fun. It's a game. It's a child's game that men are getting to play. They're getting paid to play this game. You can have your feelings around it, but can we just try not to crap on these guys who are out there playing their hearts out for us? Like, I mean, their bodies are going to give out earlier in life and they're doing all of this stuff. They get the payday. I get that. But like, can we not just celebrate the game we all love and watch on a regular basis?
Amy, I ask myself sometimes, like when I was watching the Super Bowl last week, I did not have a rooting interest. I could care less who wins, right? And it was stress free for me. I could really just sit there and enjoy and see both teams like playing great. And it's like, oh, that sucks for them. Or wow, that was awesome. Awesome play. Now, when my team is involved, I'm not like that. And it's just like, bro, like, what is so my goal for this year, and I'm hoping Amy will hold me to this. I really am going to try to, yeah, she's writing it down. I really am going to try to appreciate the game more and bitch about it less. Because I know that I am a little bit of a negative Nelly. And I get caught up. I get caught up into this whole like belief that it's World Series or bust. And if look, last season they won 100 games. Nobody thought they could win 100 games. It was a fun season. There was a lot of exciting stuff that happened. And so I can't sit there and say because they didn't win the World Series that last season sucked.
Right. I mean, because to me, it's about all those memories. It's the games that I went to with my best friend Hillary. It's the games that I met you at, or you popped up and showed up at my seats, and it's like, hey, what's up? And we get to have that
Total creeper
camaraderie.
status too. Like because I know where Amy sits
Hey,
in
I
the
brought a
stadium.
friend.
Like I just sneak up behind her and be like,
Sometimes you do. Just like
totally
looking
invade her
behind me.
bubble, like totally disrespect her personal space. Like I'm the Seinfeld close talker guy, and I could just see Amy like slowly backing up, and I would get closer, and I'd just be like, yeah, hey.
Oh wait, I know you. You're fine. You're fine. So I have it noted 7:49 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on February, what are we, 15th? You're gonna appreciate the game more and bitch less. I got you. So
I
we'll revisit this at the end of the year.
There we go. Hold me to it. All right, so
Spe-
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, speaking of people having their, kind of the go forward for the year, did you catch Doc's message to the team on, I think it was yesterday. God, all
Yeah,
these days are starting to blend together.
See, this is why Amy's such a great partner because she can read my mind. She knows where I wanted to go, and that's exactly what I wanted to go with. Because I kept seeing, I don't know if you saw this online, but they were playing the speech, right? Like at the beginning of spring training, he always addresses the players in the clubhouse, right? And I kept seeing the comments like, I would run through a wall for Dave Roberts. Like, Amy, were you inspired by that speech? Like, did it make you like, I'm ready for the season to start?
Like, I mean, I kinda did. I listened to it on repeat for a while just because I was like, I love how enthusiastic Dave is. Like, we can touch on it if there's time, but, like, even the Valentines that they just delivered yesterday to all the players, when they delivered the one to Dave Roberts, like, he was so jazzed to get it and read it, and, like, I love his enthusiasm. I liked the whole premise of it, like the make it greater, like let's make everything greater. So essentially, he started out talking about like everybody has a different idea of being prepared and what preparation is for each of them. And his challenge was let's make it greater. Let's raise the bar for everybody. So they each have to feel like they're the guy that wants to take that at bat when it matters most. Like they can all say, yeah, I want to be that guy, but they need to know it in their heart. They need to know it in their gut. And so he said, not having that fear of failure to be that guy when it matters for the Dodgers. They need to believe that. And basically, he called out the defenders, the outfielders, the pitchers. Like when you have that baseball hit to you in the biggest of spots, like no one else is the better option. You need to believe that you are that option. In the hottest spots for the pitchers, the biggest of situations, you have to want that ball. And so they can all say that they want to be that guy, but he said that they all need to take a harder look, know that they're that guy, and it can be learned. It's not easy, but collectively, if each one of them wants to be that person, it'll be really special. And after hearing that on loop a couple of times, like I got really fired up. Like, I want to take that into my life. I want to take it into baseball and writing, in our podcast, in my work. Like I want to make it greater. Like I want to be that person. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I go through my own bouts of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, whatever. I want to have more of that belief in myself, and I really hope these guys take that message and move forward with it in the season because there are so many talented people on the team.
Amy, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I love me. I love me some me, so I don't really suffer from a lack of confidence. But I will say this. All right. I don't that speech from Dave Roberts, look, it's not Al Pacino from Any Given Sunday, right? Well,
No.
we're all gonna fight for that inch. It's not
That one
like
gets
that.
me fired up too, to be fair. I'll watch that on repeat.
That
So.
I watch on a loop. But I will say there were some quotes from Roberts, and I don't know that they were from that clubhouse speech, but they were, I think, more from an interview with the media that I thought were really like. This is one of the things that I think Dave Roberts doesn't get enough credit for. I know people will sit there and say, he's just saying what the front office wants him to say, or he's not truthful. I feel you do get a lot of candor from Dave Roberts, and I appreciate that, but here's a quote that I really liked, and that is, I think it's a good existential question. As far as failures and how you deal with them, how you look at them, I think the feeling of not realizing a goal and how it doesn't sit well is important to remember and to motivate. There's always a component of looking forward and giving yourself an opportunity to do it again. And that's something that I know it seems like already that this team is using it as motivation for this year. They're carrying that postseason failure with them. I know you had said in the beginning, like, why do they keep asking them this? But it's like, I don't even know that you have to ask these guys because they are clearly haunted by the postseason failures,
But
right?
keep in mind, 14 people on the 40 man right now weren't even on the team last year. So to your point earlier, some of them are getting asked these questions and they weren't even on this team.
Right. So I thought it's I really like that where it was just like in order to like can you truly experience success without experiencing failure? Right?
That's that yin
That
and yang, right? You can't have
mm,
one without the other.
right, that sometimes failure is good because failure like I have always said this that with success, the only thing you learn from success is how to keep doing it the same way, right? Because every time it's like, why change what's not broken, right? If you've had success doing it, don't go away from it. Just keep doing it,
If
right?
we kept that mentality, we'd still be singing for our theme song. I'm just saying.
How dare you? How dare you? We
We
had
wouldn't have our
fans.
amazing song by Seder Fu.
We had fans. I had I was going to put that up on Apple Music, but I have artistic integrity. But anyways, I'll admit, Seder Fool, Alex, yours was much, much better. There's another quote from Dave Roberts about this that I wanted to run by you, and that is, the 24 Dodgers haven't done anything. And as we clearly know, you don't win on paper. I just think we haven't done anything, and we've got a lot to prove. And I love that quote
I
because
got a blank slate.
you mentioned this earlier where it's just like you can't buy a championship. I think there's this belief around Major League Baseball, oh, the Dodgers are out there buying a championship. And I love that Roberts, because that what that quote reminded me of, Amy, it reminded me of Lasorda in the 2017 World Series. I don't know if you guys remember this clip where they had just beaten the Astros in game 6. They were getting ready for game 7. It was post game of game 6. Dave Roberts is walking into the post conference room, and Tommy Lasorda was in the hallway. And you hear Lasorda say, "You haven't done shit yet." And Dave Roberts just goes, "Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for the vote of confidence." Right. But that's what I think that's good for this team to hear because yes, we're getting caught up in all the hoopla, the great offseason they've had, the excitement, the Shohei madness, right? And for Dave Roberts to sit there, and I'm sure he delivers it. I would deliver this speech to them every day and say, you guys aren't shit. You haven't done shit, and you need to go and prove it to everybody. And that's something that I don't remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy. I don't remember hearing this last year in spring training.
No, he got a lot of flack for just promising that they were gonna make it to the World Series, which I think you were with me that day in the dugout when he was explaining that mentality where somebody called him out like, "Yeah, well, you've been saying that, you've only won 2020." And he's like, "I can't go into a season and not believe that, though. I have to say we're going to win a World Series because who's gonna go in and be like, maybe we'll do it this year?" And I think he gets a lot of flack for that too, where people are like, "Well, Dave promised that we were gonna get a World Series." Well, what do you want him to say? Do you want him to come in ho hum and like, well, look, I exceeded our expectations, or do you want him to go in with the highest expectation and we do our best to meet it? So I think this quote is great. I think you're right. We maybe we put a mix of your version and his version up on the wall, but it is a blank slate. And kind of back to your point about what we were talking about earlier, if you could buy a championship, the Mets, the Padres would have been in better standing last year. We wouldn't even need to play this season because the Dodgers would already win it in 24. So again, I think that's why we love baseball, because I know it's a football thing on any given Sunday, but on any given baseball day, like we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to play out.
We're big Al Pacino fans on this podcast because Amy keeps referencing Any Given Sunday. I would totally, on a loop, just deliver. I would bring in Al Pacino to deliver that speech to the Dodgers every day, going, "You haven't done shit. You think you've won anything?" You know, I'm telling you, that's the way I do it.
We just need to get a pop up or like a little a cardboard cutout with a voice box in the back. We got it.
Look, I'll say this. I saw this a lot on social media. The level of excitement about this upcoming Dodgers season, and I will say, I am excited. I want to see games. I want to see Shohei play every day. I want to see what Yamamoto does. I want to see what Glasnow, all these new acquisitions the Dodgers got. I can't wait for the season to start. And I'm just very encouraged by just the level of focus, like all these people getting to camp early. And it just seems, I hope, I think it's very hard, especially with the off season they have, to have everything go right. I mean, we saw this last year, right? To have everything go right for you, I think is very difficult. But I am very encouraged from what I'm seeing in the Dodgers in spring training. Amy, do you have any last words before we end this episode?
Can we just have baseball be fun again? Can we just enjoy it? Like I know that we're going to have up days and down days and get upset and have our emotions, but can we just remember that baseball's fun? That's all.
There you go. That is Amy's mantra.
The more
Make sure
you
you go.
know.
Do, do, do. So that's going to do it for this episode of Baseball Shangri-La LA. If you've just come across us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Amy has put for those of you listening to the audio portion, I'm going to read again our handles on social media on X. You can follow us at BB Shangri-La on Instagram, Threads, or Twitch. You can follow us at Baseball Shangri-La. Look, we're still trying to figure out our schedule here. So that's why it's important to follow us on the social so you can be alerted as to when we are dropping episodes. Because sometimes we end up just dropping them in bunches because we have a lot to talk about, right, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, it's baseball. There's always something to talk about.
Absolutely. So once again, she is Amy Cuevas and I am Juan Ramirez. And this has been another episode of Baseball Shangri-La. We'll see you next time. Say
Thanks
goodbye
for
to the
hanging with
people,
us.
Amy. Say goodbye to
Bye. Adios.